Send back the illegal aliens from where they came from, but how are you going to do this when you're against big government?
Well, frankly, with regard to the immigration situation in the United States, I'm an expert. I've been practicing immigration law on the private side for 20 years. I understand the plight of the immigrant. I have also watched the United States government fail to follow the law as it exists today, as promulgated by the people through their representatives in Congress. Once we have fully enforced this law, I do not believe we will have an immigration problem, and if we do, we will make the changes properly through the legislative body the way that it is intended to happen. Let me comment for a minute on amnesty. I'm keenly aware of what it is. The congressman fails to call it what it is. Amnesty is another one of those smoke and mirror tricks. He lets you think that he is giving the immigrants a gift. Frankly, what he's doing is he is promising them something for their votes. The problem stays the same after the amnesty is complete. What we need to do is we need to follow the immigration law as it exists. This does not mean that everybody's going to be rounded up and detained. I have 20 years of experience in this. There are defenses to removal which result in a green card. Right now we have two societies, one that is legitimate and one that is undocumented, and the abuse against the undocumented immigrant in this country has to be stopped. The abuse against the taxpayers on funding health care for people who, frankly, if they can pay me, they can pay for their health care. It's inappropriate. It needs to be stopped.
Well, I totally disagree, and I'll go back to what I said before, which is the reason why Arizona passed this law is because the immigration system doesn't work. In other words, there is an adequate enforcement of the borders, and at the same time, we have about 11 or 12 million people here who are undocumented, who've been here a long time, and practically speaking, cannot be deported. They should be allowed, basically, as I said before, to be able to register. They go through the regular process like any other immigrant who comes here legally. If they pay their taxes, if they learn English, they don't get in trouble with the law. At the end of that period, they become a citizen just like anyone else. This is not going to go away with the current law. She suggests that if we simply enforce the current law, that's not going to solve the problem. You still have large enforcement problems, and you still have 11 million Americans or so that are in this no man's status. That's not going to change unless we pass comprehensive immigration reform.
Thank you. Mr. Pallone.
I mean, maybe I'll just... Thank you.
What is your position on Israel?
Well, I'm very supportive of Israel. I believe very strongly that the United States should support the position of the Israeli government, regardless of which government is in power. I would like to see peaceful negotiations to lead to some kind of peaceful settlement, but I've been very much opposed to President Obama pushing the Israeli government with regard to a moratorium on settlements. I think the settlements and other issues should be part of the negotiations, and Israel shouldn't be pushed to accept any kind of preconditions before the negotiations take place. Beyond that, I think it's very important for the United States to continue to provide foreign aid, including military assistance at the very high technology level, so that the Israelis have adequate weapons systems, adequate protection systems in case of another war. I think the United States basically sees Israel, and I see Israel, as our best ally, perhaps our only ally, effectively, in the Middle East. And we have to continue to support them militarily, with funding as well, and basically be supportive of the position of whichever government is in power.
Israel will be to support Israel 100%. She is our democratically governed ally in a very volatile region. Frankly, she knows about our enemy much better than we do. We need to learn from Israel with regard to airport security and the inner thinkings and strategies of our biggest enemy, which is Al-Qaeda. We also need to ask our representatives, including Congressman Pallone, about their votes with regarding to the Goldstone report, which is a very anti-Israel report. He did abstain with regard to that vote, and I would like to know why, although I'm not asking the questions this evening. I also would like to know about his silence, as our president has over and over again insulted Israel and taken sides with Israel's enemies. He should not be silent if he truly supports Israel.
Vote now on the Goldstone report. You didn't vote on it. Vote on it now. Yes or no? Against the Goldstone report. 366
Do you support Jerusalem as the capital of the Palestinian state?
No. No, I do not.
No, Jerusalem should be the capital of Israel now and forever, and I don't support any partition of Israel or being part of the Palestinian state, of Jerusalem being part of the Palestinian state.
What about the Goldstone?
Do you support sanction on Iran to stop nuclear weapons?
Yes, as many, can you hear me?
Yeah.
As many of you know, one of the things that I and the Congress have worked on over the last few years, the last few months, I should say, are very strong sanctions against Iran, which we voted on and passed a few months ago. And they actually are working. We're beginning to see that companies that previously invested in Iran are now not there anymore, and I think it's actually having a major impact in weakening the Iranian government.
Iran cannot be allowed to acquire nuclear weapons. Iran acquiring nuclear weapons not only threatens Israel, but threatens the United States. We need to do everything in our power as Americans to stop that, and we need complete cooperation from the Iranian government today. I would not rule out a preemptive strike. They cannot be allowed to have nuclear weapons and attack the United States. After September 11, 2001, we have a completely different world. We cannot allow these kinds of shenanigans to go on, where people say they're cooperating, but then do not cooperate with inspections. They are not forthcoming with information. We have to take care of America first.
And would you want to sit on that chair?
Ms. Little, would you explain, or would you detail your position on abortion?
Sure. Life begins at the moment of fertilization. In the preamble to the Constitution, we have rights that are inalienable, that are given to us by a Creator. I call Him God. And that Creator has given us rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our founding fathers wrote that in the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. Every human being has those inalienable rights. If you put two dogs together, you get a dog. If you put two cats together, you get a cat. And if you put two people together, you get a person.
I am pro-choice. I believe that it's a woman's right to decide whether to have abortion. I will point out that it's hard for me to figure out where Ms. Little stands on this issue. If you read today's Star Ledger, and I quote, she says, it says, sometimes she trips over herself as with abortion. Here's what she told NJN's Michael Aaron, quote, the abortion decision is something that is best kept between God, a woman, and her doctor. I do not believe it's appropriate for government to intrude there. But a few days later, she told the Star Ledger's editorial board that abortion is murder and that the federal government should ban it from coast to coast. Quote, I would have a hard time putting a woman in jail until she delivers, Little says. Now, I have to be honest, my position is clear. I'm pro-choice. I don't know what Anna Little's position is. It sounds like at NGN she was pro-choice, and it sounds like at the Star Ledger she was anti-choice. Beyond that, this notion of putting a woman in jail until she delivers is very disconcerting to me. I've never heard anyone suggest that they would remotely even contemplate putting a woman in jail until she delivers, and the very fact that she raises that is very upsetting to me, frankly.